No, I'm not.
You all set?
Nobody gave me that. They say very valuable. You guys have fire mother.
All right.
Right.
Somebody didn't like that.
No.
Is it Rosh Hashanah?
It's the.
Am I missing something here? There's quite a crowd here tonight. It feels like Rosh Hashanah almost.
Practicing.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, those of you that come over the summer months, you don't have to stay for the sermon part on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because I try out all my ideas over the summer, and then I figure on which one might possibly work. So you're all excused. Those of you that come on a regular basis, you all know who you are. You can just kind of walk out, and you don't have to listen to. There you go, right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Well, it's wonderful to have the Bloom and Kaplan family here, almost en masse, and I'd like to call on them to light the Shabbat candles and begin our service. Page 120, please rise.
No, we know. Do you want to privilege? I didn't know if we were supposed to read the English.
Well, you can. Yes, you can.
How are you? Good to see you. You're allowed to read whatever you'd like to read.
Within reason.
Go ahead.
We are mine.
The entire Bloom Kaplan family?
That's all right. Carry on.
Okay.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Yep.
And it's on the inside. So open it up again.
Open it up again. Strike on the side. Keep lots of room.
You have to come with an instruction manual.
Gotta work hard.
Gotta get fancy.
There you go. So. All right. Stop laughing. Your key.
Oh, I thought you were singing. I'm sorry.
I'll sing after you.
Am I reading or singing?
You can sing it. How about that?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And as the Bloom Kaplan family are taking their seats, some of you who are new to our congregation, Rabbi John Kaplan was a wonderful interim rabbi here before I came. And in fact, he was so gracious in transitioning and helping me transition to be the rabbi here when his tenure left. We're going to continue silently for just a moment to center ourselves, to feel the spirit of Shabbat, reflect on the light of these candles, So we're just going to continue silently for just a minute. If you'd like to close your eyes and just either meditate or just reflect on this beautiful setting that we have here. And as we've entered the door of this beautiful chapel, let us think about what this Bet Shalom, this house of peace, is meant to help us. Let us turn to a reading on page 124, middle of the page. We'll read responsively. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. And now the beautiful Dodi Li, to my beloved is mine, and I am my beloved's. This is understood as a metaphor to our relationship to God, but it can also be a true expression of how we feel towards one another, to people who we love and we hold dear in our hearts. It's from the Song of Songs, the Shir Shirim, traditionally attributed to Solomon. Page 129, the symbol of wisdom, Solomon. So love is certainly an important element in one's wisdom and one's ability to live a meaningful life. Page 129. continues with the Chadodi, come my beloved to greet the Sabbath. It is God who beckons us to come and treat the Shabbat as we would treat a bride. We continue page 138, page 139. And before we continue, I see that we have a few guests here. I should take a moment and just explain how the prayer book works. We open the prayer book from left to right because Hebrew is read from right to left. It's a little bit backwards from the English. Just 138 and 139 will help explain. Of course, on the right side of the page is the Hebrew, but on the left side that corresponds in a linear way, you'll see some funny looking English. That is the transliteration. If you want to work on your Hebrew and you don't know how to read Hebrew, the left side of the page is really for that. And in this case, because the poem is so long, you only have the literal translation underneath each verse. We're going to chant the first two verses, and then we'll rise on page 139 for the last verse, verse 9. L'chadodi.
Amen.
um, there's an expression from the book of Ecclesiastes, the very first verse, Ein chadash tachat hashamesh, there's nothing new under the sun. The prayer that we're about to recite is about 2,200 years old. But let me begin by quoting Albert Einstein and then explain what he meant by the statement. It's not my explanation. I could never explain what Einstein meant about anything, but I got this off the internet, which I found to be very helpful. So Einstein once stated that God does not play dice with the universe. So what did he mean by that? He meant to express his disagreement with the idea that the universe is governed by probability, a fundamental concept in quantum theory. Einstein believed that quantum particles must follow certain rules that don't change randomly, and that the quantum world needed better explanations for particle behavior. He also couldn't accept that his God would allow the, quote, lawful harmony of the universe to unravel at the atomic scale. Let's now read a prayer that is a prelude to the Shema. Let's join together, page 148, and see if we can see echoes of this idea from generations ago. And we say this blessing before we chant the beautiful Shema. Together? Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzivaot is your name, ever-living God. May you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And before we rise and we chant the Shema, it's very easy, because we recite the Shema every week, to almost have taken I won't say rote, because everybody prays in their own way. That's too strong of a word. But we often don't kind of reflect on what the problem is that rendered Moses to say Shema Yisrael, and why it became such a significant part of our liturgy. And I think it represents the problem of listening. It's hard to listen. And I want to begin by reading a lyric to a song that I think captures this problem of listening. Most of you are probably very familiar with it. It's about listening, and it's Starry, Starry Night. I'm just going to read the last two verses. Because we do not hear the eternal message of the command to hear God, of understanding what it means to hear God, even if God could possibly be heard. A quote, like the strangers that you've met, the ragged men in ragged clothes, the silver thorn of bloody rose, lie crushed and broken on the virgin snow. Now I think I know what you tried to say to me, and how you suffered for your sanity, how you tried to set them free. They would not listen. They're not listening still. Perhaps they never will. And I think the Shema is a sort of response to that insight into our human condition, because each week, some every day, will chant Shema Yisrael, pay attention. Hear, O Israel, the oneness, the stillness of God. And those of us who are gathered here this evening, and those of us who are here virtually, are still trying when we recite these words to listen, to hear that sacred voice, if not of God, then to each other. So please rise and let us reflect, maybe even close our eyes as we chant the beautiful Shema of Debbie Friedman.
Join me in the English Wehrhafter. The Mi Chamocha prayer found on page 158 allows us to reminisce about the
crossing of the Red Sea to freedom in the song that they sang after the Egyptians were no longer a threat to return them to Egypt. And it concludes with Baruch atah Adonai, blessed are you, O God, Redeemer, the one who has redeemed Israel. And so this prayer for redemption, the redemption of our ancestors at the Red Sea that we once experienced, do we need redemption? And if so, what is it? What is it that we have done such that we as Jews, whether individually or collectively, gathered here in prayer, are in such need? I think that redemption lies beyond the horizon. It is there, and it remains possible for those who are willing to cross their own Red Sea, looking at the Red Sea as a metaphor, and risk life itself to come to a new shore, a new beginning, just as the children of Israel did. That turning to God gives us that opportunity once again to come to a new shore, a new beginning in our collective lives together. Page 158, the Micha Mocha.
This is maybe a new melody for some, maybe a familiar melody to some. Either way, I encourage everyone to join in. We'll repeat the melody a few times on a nagun, some syllables, yadadai, yalalai. So I encourage everyone to join in, at least on that part. So.
Is that how it starts?
You know, we could start it with the Alabama Fight song too. It's a fighting song. It's a dance, right?
Please rise for Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, the prelude to the Tefillah, the Amidah, page 164.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Agita Gilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el hagdol hagibor v'ha'ara, Elyon, gomeh hasadim tovim, v'ganeh hakol, v'zocher hasayot v'imahot, u'mevin luah livnei b'nehem, למען שמו ביערה, מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ויצחק שרה. אתה גיבור לעם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מקפל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. צומח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומציל אסורים, ומקיים באמונתו לשמי עפר. מי כמוך פועל בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ברית ומחיים, ומשיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקיים הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We're going to continue in silent meditation, beginning on page 172 through page 180. Either you may be seated or stand as is your custom. You can either pray vis-a-vis the prayer book or just in your own silent devotions and reflections.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. My rock and my Redeemer.
Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Um, there's a part when you engage in sermon writing that the Torah portion takes you wherever it takes you. There's a interaction that goes on. You don't set out to write a sermon on a given topic, or you don't have something already in mind, at least I don't. And you sort of sit and you've studied the portion for the week and you've reflected on it. And unfortunately, this is a portion about death. And it's not going to be an easy sermon necessarily to listen to. So I'll begin with a joke. Courtesy of my wife in the morning, she said, I don't know, she finds these jokes every morning. And this is, if they're apropos, if they're appropriate to tell from the pulpit, she gives me the clearance, and then I go, because I'm not good at distinguishing between what jokes are good for the pulpit and not. So she sort of, she's my censor, and rightfully so, because I do need one. So a doctor and a lawyer are coming to shul. They're coming to temple on Friday night. And the doctor turns to the lawyer and says, I know I got to come and pray, but, I really hate coming here because this person and that person, they tell me what's wrong with them and I got to give them advice. And, it's one right after another. This one's heart doesn't working right. The other one's got a problem in the arm and nerves and this and that. And it's constant. And I don't really enjoy coming here because I get harassed. I'm at work, basically. And the lawyer says, I had the same problem. And the doctor says, well, how'd you solve it? I said, well, I started to send people bills. And that stopped. So the doctor says, thank you. That's really a good idea. So a day or two goes by and the doctor goes and picks up the mail and there was a bill from the lawyer. Okay. That has nothing to do with the sermon. For years, I never understood, or I read this portion Chukat a certain way, because it deals with the red heifer, and I'll come to that in just a moment. But this week, when I read it as a whole, I realized that there's an overarching theme to it, and that is death. And how do we respond to it? How do we respond as individuals, and how do we respond as a community? What are we to do when death calls? And I know this is not a very pleasant subject to sermonize on a beautiful Shabbat service with lovely music, and a kind of lovely congregation to match both virtually and, of course, here in person. So the portion begins with a very strange ritual. When a person comes into contact with a corpse, the Torah considers that person to be defiled, tameh. In order to be purified, a red heifer is to be slaughtered, and in a complex series of steps, its ashes are sprinkled onto the person. And afterward, in working with the Kohen Gadol, the person becomes tahor, the person becomes pure, ritually pure. Even the great sage Rashi did not understand the relationship between the red heifer ritual and death. And how do we know that? Because he says so. That's how we know. But then, if we think about it, it really is about our need for ritual in a time of great loss to help us get through things. Yeah, doesn't seem very rational to us. Why do we need a funeral service? What is it about death that we invent such rituals as washing our hands upon exiting a cemetery following burial? Those who cremate loved ones often perform a ritual whereby they have a short service and spread human ashes in a peaceful setting or a favored place of the deceased. Why do we do that? We say Kaddish at the anniversary of the death of a loved one, nothing more than a verbal ritual, yet somehow necessary and vital for our humanity, for our psyche, for some transcendental purpose that is undefined and even, I dare say, ultimately unknowable why we do these things in time of great loss. And it doesn't end there. You would hope that it would move on to something a little more positive, but it doesn't. Instead, in the very next verse, beginning of the next chapter, Moses' sister Miriam dies. One sentence is devoted to her passing. And in the very next verse, the Israelites complain that there's no water in the very same chapter. The next verse 1 is she dies. And in the next verse, the Israelites complain that there is no water, as if her life, the author, doesn't much matter. Our rabbis assert, and they were aware of this problem, that their lack of water was due to her death, because in her lifetime, the Israelites received water from God on account of her virtuous life and her relationship to water. Moses in the basket going down the Nile and her watching, her singing at the Red Sea when the Egyptians were being drowned. She's described as a prophet and criticizes Moses because he neglects his wife Zipporah. Yet the Torah does not eulogize her, and the people, there's no mention of their mourning. And yet we have created or somehow have a series of rituals that allow us to get through the loss of a loved one and remember people such as Miriam and attribute the saving of a people through their righteousness. That's not in the text. The death of Moses and Aaron, that's mentioned here. So what follows after the children of Israel complain? It's that famous story that most of us know of Moses striking the rock when God tells Moses and Aaron to only speak to it. And before I briefly describe this narrative, bear in mind that this is the 40th year of their wandering, and the generation of enslaved Israelites have now died. Because Moses and Aaron failed to sanctify God before the people in striking the rock as opposed to speaking to the rock, they too were sentenced by God to die in the wilderness. Indeed, Aaron dies in this very portion, and the people do not move from the camp for 30 days. Those of you who are familiar with the Shloshim period, the 30-day mourning period following death. This is where it comes from. Only in the narrative do we get a theological glimpse of what life and death mean. And curiously enough, it is about the sanctification of God. And I added this as if God needs to be sanctified. Yet this is what the text says. I was sanctified through them. And so our sages wrestled with this question, who is the them? And here our sages disagree. They say that the sanctification could be one of three possibilities, all equally valid. The them refers to this new generation. They too required some proof to believe in God after spending their childhood and adulthood in the wilderness. They didn't witness the crossing of the Red Sea. They didn't witness the 10 plagues. They didn't witness the giving of the 10 commandments. This was a new generation. Water from the rock gave the children of Israel the courage to move forward despite the striving at the waters of bitterness. So that's one. It could be actually the congregation, the people who were there. They, through their now belief in God, sanctified God. The them could be the waters themselves. After all, water is a symbol of purity. Think of the water that in the pitcher when we leave the cemetery, right? We pour water over our hands. Think of the mikvah, for those of you who have been to the mikvah. Those are waters that purify. So these waters gushing from the rock sanctified God. And finally, it could be Moses and Aaron. Even though they disobeyed, it was their striking of the rock that led to the water quenching the thirst of an exhausted congregation. For the text states at a different place, V'ekrovai ekadesh, through those who are close to me, I shall be sanctified. I don't know anyone who hasn't been touched by death in some way, and as a result, didn't grieve. I've never experienced anyone who, after burying their loved ones in a Jewish funeral service, refused out of protest to recite the Kaddish, which is nothing more than a sanctification verbally of God. Yitgadal v'yitkadash me rabbah. May God's great name be glorified and sanctified. So Chukat is not really about knowing about what the red heifer is about. It really is about finding ways to help us through loss. Losses that are so painful at times we wonder how we can go on without those whom we have buried. The water pitcher outside of the cemetery to wash our hands when we depart isn't about becoming tahor, pure in any kind of physical sense. It represents the hope of moving forward, of not dwelling on that which lies behind us. It can be a community coming together to attend a burial service, or to comfort mourners in their home, or our search for meaning of life. That even the most devoted in recognition of our search for meaning recognize that even the most devoted, Moses and Aaron and Miriam, will die. But the community, the Kehillah, will continue and indeed one day inhabit the promised land, both literally and metaphorically. Amen. We turn now to the beautiful Misha Berach prayer, the prayer for healing, page 371. Oh, excuse me. we will have a meditation, azamra, excuse me. Beautiful. Thank you. We turn now to the Misha Berach prayer, page 371. We pray for the healing of Dr. John Johnson, Sheila Ross, Tammy Jackson, Harold Fink, Sandra Kelly, Mark Hieronymus, Rafi Breen, Drew Pasaglia, Aidan Edmondson, Tyler Mazie, Les Beyer, David Cherniak, Ann Miller, David Menaker, Amy Sunberg, and Mary Elizabeth Perry. Is there anyone who we wish to add in need of healing, please? Thank you. rise for the Aleinu, page 586.
That's talent. It's talent. Alleluia, Shabbat, Adon, Hakol, Latet, Gedulah, Yosef, Reshit, Shelo, Asanu, Kigaye, Haratzot, Velo, Asamanu, Kamishmechot, Adama, Shelo, Sam, Chalachenu, Kaem, Vigor, Aleinu, Kechol, Amonam, Vanagnu, Korim, Umishtakavim, Umodim. Lifnei Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar, V'haya Adonai, Limelech ha'aretz, V'yom ha'hu, V'yom ha'hu, Yirei Adonai echad. U'shemo,
You may be seated. This week, we observed the art sites of Terry Barkin, Mark Miller, Miriam Zelniker, Dolores Loeb, and we mourn the passing of Gilbert Lawson Metz, beloved husband to Kay and father of Joseph and Caroline, who was laid to rest this past week. Is there anyone observing a yard site or saying Kaddish for someone who they wish to remember at this time? Thank you. Please rise for the mourner's Kaddish, page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash me rabba Bialma divrach chirute v'yamnich malchute b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'zman kariv imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam ule'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu le'ela bin kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Now call on Miriam Fry, board member, who will deliver the announcements and greetings for this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Join us for breakfast tomorrow at 9:30 before our monthly Saturday morning Shabbat service. There will be bagels, lox, and Belgian waffles. This month's lunch bunch gathering has been rescheduled to Wednesday, July 17th at noon. Please join us for a lively and insightful discussion on various topics of Jewish interest. And then on Sunday, July 21st at 2 p.m., we will have the first recital of our 24-25 concert series. It'll be a violin and piano recital of songs and sonatas featuring Robert Holm, Lydia Newton, and our own Molly Adams. There'll be a wine and cheese reception to follow.
Thank you, Marion. Thank you. Yeah, I hear the Belgian waffles are supposed to be pretty good tomorrow, so. And we also want to welcome those who are with us virtually. Thank you. And they include Malvin Odette Sternberg, Shirley Boyd, Harold and Emily Fink, Calvin Ennis, I believe. I think he's the only Calvin we have in the congregation. I think it's Calvin Ennis. James Perry, Karen and Hemath Singh, Larry and Leslie Miller, Marion Birkin, Pinky and David Cherniak, Randy Fry, Lynn DeLuca, and Eric Riggs, who is in Tennessee, I believe. Is that right? Kentucky, excuse me, Kentucky, that's right, close. Always get those two states mixed up. No, not really. We're going to continue now with the Kiddush. I'm going to call on Anne to come forward and lead us in the Kiddush, page 123. There's a lovely oneg that follows in the library. Hope you all attend. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav, v'rasavanu, v'shabbat kadsho, b'ahava uvratzon, inkilanu, zikaron l'maseh, v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah, l'mikra'ei kodesh, zeker l'tzion, Mitzrayim, kivanu v'akarta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol amim, v'shabbat kashirka, b'ahava uvratzon, inkaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Is there any little girls in here?
There was. She's snoozing.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Mom, no, the clip.
You may be seated. Before we conclude our service, again, there is an oneg that follows um, in the library. We want to thank Molly and Greg Wiggins for leading us so beautifully in worship. We are so grateful to have the two of you here with us this evening. Just a little message to those of you who were with us virtually. We have more people here tonight than we had online. So the people who are there virtually got to step up their game a little bit. We had more people here than we did virtually, and for us that's a great thing. But we also very much appreciate those who are with us virtually, and we are more than overjoyed to have you with us. We're going to conclude our service with a kind of a mixture of Oseh Shalom. I was told that this was a mishmash of Oseh Shalom and Shalom Aleichem, which can be found on page 180 and then page 142 for Shalom Aleichem.
So we'll start with Shalom Aleichem first on page 142. We'll sing through it. It may be a new melody for some, may be familiar for others. Oseh Shalom should be fairly familiar to most of you. And so please join in and sing loudly.
Shabbat Shalom.